All right, friends, welcome to Authority. This week I have my friend Jamie Davis, who is an absolutely amazing human being, sitting down to talk to me about mental health and author things and all that kind of fun stuff. He is the author of Extreme Medical Services, Uncle Chip Saves the Fae, Lone Wolf Squadron, Hunter's Clan Saga, Accidental Gamer, a whole bunch of series. He is an urban fantasy author, sci fi fantasy, man after my own heart, and obviously an excellent person. Otherwise, I wouldn't have him on. He is a nurse, a retired paramedic, a medical educator, lifelong gamer, public speaker, and I know him through Author Nation and 20 books, and we've become friendly, and he's just kind of the best. And I'm really excited to have you on to talk about author mental health, particularly with how challenging our world is right now. Mental health is going to be so challenging for people.
Yes. Yes.
And like I've been struggling. I know I've been pretty overt on my social media that I've been on the struggle bus. So, um, so tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from on mental health, what your experiences are, and we'll just kind of chit chat.
Yeah. So it's I think my biggest thing is I'm very public about it. I'm type 2 bipolar,
Hmm.
which means I have mood swings, but they tend to swing deeper and darker into depression rather than a lot of manic episodes. Type 1 bipolar people tend to have more high manic episodes where they're up for days on end and compulsive behaviors in that direction. So I deal with a lot of depression, and I have episodes that crop up 3 to 4 times a year. Um, and Yeah, I think I'm sliding into one now actually because I've been having some like down days, and I've
Yep.
been up for like 6 weeks. So and I know myself. I've been dealing with this for a long time. So
Yep.
it's something that I'm very open about. I try to talk about it when I'm on social media and dealing with it because I think that the stigma around mental health needs to go away. And we need
Yep.
to talk about our mental health and our broken brain, just like we talk about, oh, I broke my arm last week and now I've got a cast on it.
Agreed.
My brain is broken sometimes and I need to do this to fix it.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. To anybody who hasn't been on this podcast forever, I'm autistic. I have CPTSD. I have ADHD. I have depression and anxiety. Basically, I am the DSM 5, just bind me and ship me. um, but I understand I do the same thing where I talk about my mental health and try and destigmatize it for other people so that they feel less alone and less like the world is, because right now, particularly with the whole Tylenol thing, there's a lot of stigma going on, particularly around autism, which is
Yeah.
nonsense.
I just, I made a Starkey comment post on Facebook and you jumped on it immediately. But around the Tylenol stuff, I
Yep.
just, as a healthcare professional, I am completely floundering for trying to find a way to counter some of the misinformation that has
Yeah.
been floating around out there. And I'm not trying to be political about it. I'm just saying, the science is the science.
Yep.
And we have lots of science backing some of this stuff up.
Yeah, the Tylenol, I'm not taking that as a political statement either, because medical fact is medical fact.
Yep.
There's no, the only politics is who said the stupid thing. And, but medical fact is fact, and I've made several snarky comments about, like, what caused your autism, wrong answers only. I'm sure you've seen that post that's been going.
Yes.
That's been a fun one. Um, and I also know that, like, I know you're with the seasons changing and autumn kind of coming in, a lot of people are going to be heading into seasonal depression.
Hmm.
And as an author, I know that when I'm experiencing a depressive episode and all that other such, man, is it hard to write.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and like, how do we deal with those challenges? Like, what is your experience with facing some of those?
I will tell you that I've written when I've been depressed. I've also struggled with weeks on end where I couldn't write a word.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the things that I've found is, and your mileage may vary out there, folks. Everybody has different levels of challenges and different solutions and coping mechanisms. But one of the things around writing um, is to find a way to just get something done. And and it may be thicken up the plot a little bit. You know,
Mhm.
go through and plot ahead a couple of chapters. I tend to be more of a discovery writer, but I do loose plot line just to kind of give myself a general direction.
Yep.
Sometimes I can just if I can just go and write a paragraph and walk away and say, hey, you know, my story's a little more solid right now,
Yep.
and I need to take that win and I need to make it call it a day, and from an author standpoint, and focus on something else that maybe I can have some success with. Because for me, I find that if I can just tick a box, you know, I feel like I've accomplished something,
Yep.
and even a small accomplishment can go a long way towards carrying me through the day.
Absolutely. And I also, for me, sometimes it's not even just writing. It'll be, I've made a social media post on my author facing
Mhm.
pages. I have successfully posted something that will engage with my audience even a little bit. Even if I haven't written forward on anything, I have at least done something to toward my author sphere of activities. Because as you well know, being an author is more than just writing words on the page. It's about a billion other things.
Oh, it is, and you know that's a good point to make. Is that I never used to be a person who had a planner, but I'm religious about my planner now,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the reasons I do that is when I'm having a bad day, if I just go back and look at all the things I've ticked off on that planner, and it might be, you know, write my newsletter for this week,
Yep.
or it might be um, post my cover image and an upcoming sale notification on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, or you know, when I start looking at the volume of things that I accomplish that are not writing, but are, you know, in the neighborhood of things I have to do as an author for marketing or for
Yep.
business or for all the things, um, you know, I can give myself a pat on the back and say, look, I got a lot done today.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, again, it's about ticking for me, it's about ticking that box. But there are days where I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and I spend a lot of time sleeping because I just that's the only way I can face the day sometimes.
Yep.
And I think that for 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 those out there that are struggling with that kind of challenge, um, you know, give yourself the grace to be that way for a little bit.
Yep.
You know, and if you need to if you need to find additional help or assistance, please do that. There are lots of resources out there. Um, there are people who care deeply about you,
Mm-hmm.
even though some part of your brain is lying to you and saying they don't.
Yep.
um, that is something that I want to be very clear about for those that are dealing with depression.
Yes.
You know, it's insidious
Yep.
and evil, and the things that my mind tells me when I'm in a deep dark place, you know, would shock. I mean, I don't even tell my wife all the stuff my brain
Yep.
says to me, because I don't want to, you know, I don't want her to worry about me any more than she already does.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Like I've been open about the fact that I was inpatient in January for a while because I was in a really bad place and I needed help and I got it and it changed my life for the better. I see a therapist weekly. You know, meds don't really work for me, but they work for a lot of people. There's so many ways that you can attack this problem. And even just sometimes spending time with a friend who's okay with you just bed rotting and doing
mhm.
nothing and just who comes over and talks to you anyway. Or I've had times where I've had to cancel plans with friends because I just could not go out. This was more physical than mental, but my friend was like, well, we can't go and do the thing we were going to, so I'm just gonna come hang out with you at your place today, and we're just gonna sit and chat. I'll bring my laptop, I'll work, you work, and we'll just chill. And that was such a tremendously meaningful experience just to have like we couldn't go do the thing because we'd been planning to go rock climbing and my body was like, no, you're not doing that today, I'm sorry, we've canceled this plan, and we didn't tell you until now. And when I told my friend that, the fact that she just pivoted 180 and said, okay, cool, I'll come out hang out with you anyway, it made such a really big impact on me that she just was like, cool, the point of this is to hang out with you regardless of what we do, and having those people who are willing to do that is a lot.
Yeah, I, I I completely agree, and I'm lucky enough to have a very supportive family. I have a great therapist. You know, some for some people meds work, for some people meds don't
Yep.
work. I will say this: body chemistry changes throughout your life. Meds need to be adjusted, added, deleted. So meds may not have worked for somebody 10 years ago, but 10 years from now, there may be a new med,
Mm-hmm.
or your body chemistry has changed and a
Yep.
medication might actually work for you now. So it's something for everybody. It's a constantly changing palette of things that we do in mental
Yep.
health to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. Like self-care is complicated. It's more than just like bubble baths and listening to music you
Mhm.
like. I mean, those can be helpful because I do love me a good bubble bath, but like
Oh, and
uh
I'm all about the music therapy. I have a
yeah.
playlist that, if I can actually make myself turn it on, which that sounds stupid
Mm-hmm.
to
No,
somebody who
no.
doesn't struggle. Well, to somebody who doesn't struggle with mental illness, that sounds ridiculous. What do you mean you can't play your happy playlist? Well, you know, just lifting a finger sometimes to do something in a positive direction is hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But music, man, there are songs out there that lift my soul,
Yep.
and that's so there are lots of things that we can do to manage with the different types of mental health issues we
Yep.
have, and we're talking a lot about depression and things like that, but there are people out there with that have other kinds of disorders around um, you know all kinds of things. Of course, my medical brain is shut down because I'm on a podcast right now, so I'm
Of
not
course.
can't think of anything. But there's a lot of people out there who are really struggling with a lot of different
Oh,
challenges,
definitely. Like
and
uh,
I think writing. I think we haven't talked about the fact that writing about your problem
mm-hmm.
can be cathartic too. You're doing this podcast, you write
Yep.
your Substack newsletter.
Yep.
Um, and I think that so we shouldn't, if you're a writer, lean into your strength and write about what you're struggling with right now. Write about the
Yes.
fact that you can't stop focusing on something that's driving you nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a clinical term, driving you nuts. But I
Absolutely.
mean, it's it, it is, we all have those moments, and so sometimes my latest book in my paramedic series is about a paramedic with PTSD, because a very good friend of mine had to stop riding the ambulance for 6 months because of just one too many bad calls. It
Mm.
wasn't even that it was a particularly difficult situation they
No, it's
dealt with,
cumulative.
but it was cumulative stress,
Yep.
and it was a career's worth, 20 years worth of stress
Mm-hmm.
that pulled him off the ambulance. And I was I worked with them, and just talked to him on the phone and stuff. He's in Kansas City, I'm in Maryland, so we were far away from each other, but you know he got the help he needed there. I stayed in touch with him, and I said, I'm going to write a book about this experience, because I've had PTSD
Yep.
experiences from my paramedic and nursing days, and I think that it's an important topic. And can I do this in a way that doesn't bring people down, but
Mm-hmm.
lifts up the concept of how we find treatment?
Yep.
So I came up with a magical curse PTSD, and I think I've done it justice. I think I've made it fun and interesting, and yet also leaned into the self-care that needs to happen, and the seeking help from the outside that
Mm-hmm.
needs to happen, um, in a way that's fun and good to read. We'll
Yeah.
find out.
Excellent. And I also find that like I have characters in my books like you do who have mental health difficulties. Snow from Cold Front, which is back there somewhere. It's off camera, you can't see it, but she has PTSD from military service.
Hmm.
My PTSD is not from military service; it is from purely civilian things. I've never been in the military, but she has PTSD. Well, she's a spy, so sort of military service, military adjacent. Um, and her experience with PTSD and having trust issues and all kinds of stuff are core to that book. And struggling with that is core to her character. Now, it's not the only thing that happens in that book. That book is full of snarky nonsense and will make people laugh as well as make people go, oh, geez. Which is, it's a thriller, it's supposed to. But you can absolutely use those experiences to write about things with more authenticity than somebody who's never been through that. And,
And we tell people, write what you know,
mm hmm,
and that means write what you know from your core inner self, as
yep,
well as your career or
yep,
your hobbies or whatever. That really means a lot when you say write what you know.
yep. Definitely. And like I have friends who are schizophrenic. I have friends who have a lot of varying mental health difficulties of different kinds, neurodivergent of various different flavors. And some of them have written about their experiences, some of them have not. Um, and my understanding of those things also shapes my writing because I intend on including some characters with those mental health disorders, not as set pieces, but as whole people. Because one of the things that happens a lot, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because this is that Author Nation talk I'm going to be giving, is people writing about cult communities without being in the community, kind of sticking their foot in it by making them two dimensional. Like, oh, the autistic person, they must be good at math and like trains. That's the only thing you write about them. It ends up, so having people like you who have genuine experience with the thing, like me who have experience with the thing, writing stories from those perspectives gives insight in a way that like the About Us doesn't as much.
That's you just hit on something that is a huge challenge for a lot of authors is how do we write diverse characters, diverse in mental
Mm-hmm.
health, diverse in their physical selves and their sexual selves, and how do we write diverse characters when we're not when we're not associated with that group or actively interacting with people from that group. I think that's a challenge that we face as authors, but it can be done
Yes.
if you get people to work with you.
Yep.
I wrote a series that was about love between people that I wanted to just touch on diverse characters because my daughter, who is a lesbian, said to me, "Dad, you need to write more diverse characters," and she called me on it. And
Yep.
it's like, all right, but you got to help because I can't write authentic characters like
Yep.
about that are like you unless you help me write about
Mm-hmm.
what your relationships have been like and
Yeah.
what that community is like. And so we wrote a 3-book series together, and it was
Nice.
joyful. We all have friends out there that would love to be featured in that way in the,
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes in a book, and so we can do that and do that responsibly,
Yes.
and hopefully it will open our eyes and our minds and our
Yep.
hearts, and it will hopefully open the minds hearts of our readers.
There's something that I read once, and I don't remember who said it. I don't remember where it was, so I can't state the scientific accuracy of it. But I read somewhere at one point that the mirror neurons in our minds go off when we are reading books about and from the perspective of people who are not us, as if we were kind of experiencing that with the person. So, one of the best ways to understand this sort of thing is by reading books that feature this kind of diversity. So, if you want to understand mental health struggles, you read books about people who are, or by people who are having those difficulties, and it'll give you a more deep understanding. And who knows, you might learn something about yourself you didn't know. Like when my friend, bless her soul, she's not a doctor. She's a nurse. She is a psychiatric nurse LNP, and she was like, "Hey, so I think you're autistic." She'd known me since I was 6, and I was like, "Pshaw, pshaw, pshaw." And then I did research and I started reading things by and about people who were autistic, and I was like, "Oh no, it's me." Oh no, not in a bad way, but like in a
But in a healthy
yes,
self-discovery way, and that's good.
exactly. Exactly. And that point of connection of suddenly understanding all of it, just clicking things into place, made a lot of sense. So reading about people who are experiencing different mental health things can also lead you to have a really profound revelation about yourself sometimes, which is awesome
Yeah.
because if we know ourselves better, we can treat ourselves better.
And treating ourselves better and self-care is something that we all can work on a little
Mhm.
bit, if not a lot of it,
Yeah.
because I I'm a nurse, and if I look at my personality type, I'm a helper all the way, 100%. And part of the problem that you have when you're a helper is that you don't help yourself.
Mhm.
It's
Allergic
very
to it.
easy to me. It's very easy for me to put aside my problems. The easiest way to get me out of a depressive episode is to come in with a cut on your arm that needs treatment. I
Mhm.
completely subvert myself
Yep.
and push it down and become the helper and focus on you.
Mhm.
And so I I think we need to lean into some of that and be, understanding, self-understanding is hard and can be challenging and sometimes scary, but if you know your strengths and you can build upon the things that are healthy parts of your personality,
Mhm.
um, that's another way to help with your health or mental health.
Yep, definitely. I'm also a helper. It, the fastest way to get me out of something is to have somebody else need something, and there I go. But so I understand. It can also be toxic to the sense that I never stop, so that's
Yep.
a problem. But that's between me and my therapist.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, and it's funny, it's something we talked about in nursing school a lot. And every nurse I know, almost every nurse I know, is a helper,
Hmm.
or at least some level in
Yep.
their personality scale, a helper near the top. And we all just joke about the fact that we can't take care of ourselves. We
Oh yeah.
we'll jump up and do all kinds of things to help somebody else, but when it comes to asking
Oh
for
man.
help,
Yeah.
it is just we can't ask for help to
Because
save
you
our
don't want to
lives,
burden anybody
literally.
with it.
No, no, why would we want to do that?
Yep.
And so I think, yeah, again, understanding that about yourself, or understanding any aspect of your personality that can hold you back,
Yep.
leaning into the ways to avoid that, can help pull you through to the other side of an episode or a situation you're
Yep.
in.
Like when I'm really deep into depression and I write about it on my Substack or I write about it on my author Facebook page and somebody says, I really connected with this. Thank you for sharing that. It helps me. So
Hmm.
leaning into that strength and because being vulnerable on the internet is scary. Like
Yeah.
it just is because you never know who's going to swim by and see your content of whatever kind. But the fact that usually the comments I receive from people, particularly about the mental health stuff, are more positive and supportive and saying, "Man, I've experienced this too." And that moment of not feeling as alone in the world, it really makes a big difference for me and for the other people who are reading the thing or reading my newsletter or hearing the podcast, whatever it is. And that makes a huge difference in how I approach things because even if I am having to be vulnerable on the internet and, I know that that activity is helping somebody else, and as a helper, if I'm doing a service for somebody else, it makes it easy to do the thing, or easier to do the thing. So finding those keys in your brain and those parts of your personality, like if you are somebody who really likes things organized and your mental health is bad, organize something. Like it will help you feel better. Whether it's your
Yes.
file folders on your desktop or whether it's a shelf in your house, doesn't matter. Organize the thing.
Absolutely, and I think there are lots of there are some other ways we can try to work through some of these things too. Being an author is inherently lonely. We rarely do we write in tandem with just even one single other person, let alone in a larger group. Um, it has to be by nature done one on one with you and the computer, you and
Yep.
the page, you and the device you're using. And but that doesn't mean that you can't reach out and find a community of
Yep.
other authors to be part of.
Mhm.
You're not alone. There, I think people of a certain type lean towards being authors,
Yep.
and so you will find other people like you in the community. And it can be a local physical community. There's lots of writer groups
Mhm.
out there that have regular meetings and get together once a month and have lunch or dinner, or just kind of hang out. It can be something as simple as that to get you started. It can be an online community, a
Yep.
Facebook group, or some other place. It can be a big conference like the Author Nation
Yep.
conference, which I just had to put. I can't not say that that
Yeah.
doesn't exist because it's my thing.
Oh
um,
yeah.
it's one of
Absolutely.
the ways I give back. um, but whatever the community, it can be a big event, it can be a small thing, it
Yep.
can be a phone call, a regular Zoom meeting once a week with a group of authors that anything like that. Just building a
Mhm.
community around you builds a support network.
Absolutely. Like I'm more on the editing side than the author side when it comes to community. I mean, I'm part of Author Nation, I'm part of a lot of them, but the editing
Hmm.
community, we have a bunch of little sub discords where we work together with the camera on and mics off. The channel we're in doesn't even allow microphones, so you can't talk to anybody. But
Okay,
you're writing with other people on screen, so we're all there together doing the thing together, but we can't distract each other, except in the
that's great.
text chat, which you can mute. So there's options like that for co-working. There's all kinds of things where you can connect with other people and feel like you're part of a community, even if it's just you and your computer in your office, which is where I am right now. That helps a lot, a lot. And you'd be amazed how many people in the writing community have various and myriad different mental health or physical disabilities because, as you said, it does draw a certain kind of person who's kind of used to being on the outside and a little lonely, which is why we create worlds in our heads.
Hmm. 100%. And I think back to, um, I just use you and I as an example.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly the day we met. We sat down at neighboring tables
Mm-hmm.
at the 20 Books event, and we just kind of struck up a conversation. What do you write? What do you
Mm-hmm.
do? And it can be something that starts as simple as that. Just reaching out to be in contact socially with another writer can be hugely uplifting in
Yeah,
so many ways.
definitely. And also, as authors, we understand the unique challenges that come with being an author, from the fact that it is a inherently solo profession to the fact that rejection is such a big part of our
Hmm.
experience in ways that it often isn't for other vocations. So needing to overcome those rejections over and over again and understanding when it isn't about you, just sometimes it's the wrong book for the wrong thing for the wrong moment and has nothing to do with your quality as a human being, as an author. Sometimes it's just not the right thing. And, from bad reviews to all kinds of stuff, and we all kind of understand these things. And when you say, man, I got a 1 star review today, other authors will be like, either sympathetic or share it with me so we can roast it. There's always that one too.
I can't tell you how many authors I know have taken 1-star reviews and turned them into blockbuster advertising
Yep,
campaigns because I promise you, if there's something about your book that somebody complained about, it is also something that somebody else has been looking for.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so there's that way to kind of turn the tables on the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, it's for me. I don't get bothered by negative reviews. I've always been very honest with myself about the fact there's no way I can please everyone.
Yep,
What I write will make somebody write a 5-star review and somebody else write a 1-star review, and it
yep,
has no reflection on me. It's about what they prefer. But what devastates me, and I say this, is the editing process
yep.
devastates me. And I've never had a negative editor, never. But I dread
The
getting the
sea of red.
changes back.
Yep.
I
Oh,
dread
yeah.
it. And it's like it's so cringy, and I have to sit there and I have to consciously, before I have to take a deep breath before I open the file,
Mm-hmm.
and reframe it and say this person is doing everything they say in this document is there to help me
Mm-hmm.
write a better book.
Yep.
And if I don't tell myself that out loud before I open the file, I will not open the file.
No, getting edits back is hard. Like, as a person who is a professional editor and whose books are professionally edited, it's challenging because you're like, man, I suck at this. Every time. It doesn't matter how good you are. You're like, wow, I should never write again. I am trash. And even
Well,
and it's not
exactly.
true. It's not true because I know for an absolute categorical fact that New York Times bestsellers feel the same way when they get their edits back from their editor every single time. So it's not me.
It is just a fact of life, but it makes me laugh when I think about how it affects me, and like the negative reviews don't affect me. Somebody can write a mean review and I laugh it off, but an editor who is saying nothing but kind things, like the first part of their document will say, "I loved this book. It made me laugh. It made
Yep.
me cry. It made me." but and so look at the changes and take the ones you want and leave the ones you
Yep.
don't want. And I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. But
Yep.
it's just the yeah, it is just I'm like I said, there are editors out there. I've heard horror stories of editors that have been less than positive in their response and feedback, but I've never had that experience with any editor that I've ever dealt with. But I still, in my mind, something about that
Yep.
process just is makes me cringe
I think
inside.
it takes us back to like school when we turned in papers and got feedback
Hmm.
from the teacher. And that's kind of how people equate it in their minds is, oh no, the teacher didn't like my paper. They think they're being graded.
That you know what? That's so true. I never thought about it like that before, but that is exactly the feeling I have.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm this kid in a desk,
Yep.
and the paper gets slapped down on the desk in front of me, and there's
Exactly.
red all over it.
Yep. And then of course you have the, oh no, I've got a bad grade. I have to tell my parents. There's this whole mental process that goes on in our brains when that happens. Even if we know that there's nobody here judging it, and in fact, the editor's comments are just for us, and nobody has to see any of this ever except the editor. But it still like triggers in our brains that, ooh, I'm a school kid who got a bad grade feeling, and everybody has that kind of reaction to it.
Yep, 100%. So true.
um, so it's a challenge, and that's again like the author community we were talking about before, having that community who understands the minute you say, "Man, I got my edits back today," and everyone is like, "Well, what kind of drink do you want? Alcoholic, non-alcoholic, cocoa? Would you like a fuzzy blanket? Do we need to scream into a pillow?" Like,
Any of those can work.
right? Like any of
Yes,
them, all of the above, whatever it is.
100%. Yeah, that's great. It's and again, it's like I said, it's community, it's shared experience.
Yep.
We can pull together to help each other. And if people get nothing else out of listening to us talk about issues for the last half hour, please, take with you that there's a community of people out there who feel a lot like you do,
Mm-hmm.
and would love to share some of that experience with you.
Definitely. And that brings us back to the finding community, not being alone part of our conversation. I found that the antidote to a lot of the issues that we experience with mental health to some degree is community. It's not so much that it'll fix whatever miswiring we've got in our brain. Me having a community doesn't make me less autistic, but it does mean that having a group of people who understands it helps my mental health improve dramatically because at that point I'm not the lone weirdo out there. I'm people get it and it's a relief.
Well,
And
and it's being accepted for who you are,
mhm.
and nothing else attached to that.
Yep.
Just being accepted for who you are.
Exactly. And that's such a radical thing in a world that is so frequently judgmental of every little difference. And so finding a community of people who genuinely do just accept you and get you is transformational. So I agree with you that if you take nothing else from this conversation, finding a community, however you find your community, you can find writing groups at local libraries. They're often a resource for that. If you've got a college nearby, you can talk to a college. They sometimes have writing groups that may or may not be exclusive to students, or they might know of some in the area. There's online, which can be more or less toxic depending on where you end up. But there's plenty of places you can find to build or create or join a community of people who will actually understand you, and you don't have to deal with this by yourself.
And if it's not a good fit, find the next one,
Yep.
because it might take you a few tries,
Yeah, and
and that's okay. That's totally okay.
it is. It doesn't even mean that community is a bad one, but just like with the star reviews, not every community is for every person. Not
Right.
everybody likes pineapple on their pizza. It's okay. So we just find what is for us and leave what isn't for us to other people.
Yeah.
All right, well, this has been a tremendously fun conversation. I'm so glad that we've had a chance to sit down and chat. You are always a pleasure to talk to, and I cannot wait to see you at Author Nation in November. It's going to be great. So,
It's going to be amazing. Yeah, we're trying to build on a really successful show from last year
mm-hmm.
by making little tweaks to make it even a little bit better, and that's all
Yep.
we can hope to do.
Oh, my cat is telling me it's time to go. But yes, I'm super excited about Author Nation this year. I cannot wait to see you and all of our friends in Las Vegas. If you don't know what Author Nation is, it's too late to buy a ticket for this year, but next year,
No, it's not.
no, you can still get tickets.
You can get tickets up to the day you walk into the room.
Oh, okay. I
So we'll
also know
just
that.
find Isabella and hook you up. So
Okay,
we
yeah.
got
So
it.
if you happen to be going to Las Vegas for a week in this first week of November, um,
Mhm.
it, definitely check out Author Nation because it is a phenomenal time. It is like probably the best author experience I have ever had, and the people are fantastic. We have a great time. The talks are amazing. It is just a phenomenal week, and talk about finding your community. Like, wow.
We that's what we try to be
Yep,
is a place, a safe place for people to come and find their tribe. And
absolutely.
so authornation.live if you want to find out more about it.
Yep.
But definitely if you can't make it this year, maybe try to plan to come next year. We'd love to have you.
There are also the digital tickets too, which you can get. If you
Yes,
can't get there in
there are
person,
digital tickets.
you can get digital tickets. It's not the same as being there with all the people and doing all the networking, but you can still get the value out of the talks, which are phenomenal. There are a bunch of industry leaders there who give amazing
And
talks.
the digital tickets include a follow-up Zoom
Yep.
call with the speaker where you will get some sense of that
Mhm.
community where you can actually ask questions about
Yep.
what you saw in the presentation video. Then you
Yep.
can come back and ask live questions and get your
Mhm.
questions answered there too.
Yeah, that was a great thing last year when we did that. And I did the follow-up Zoom with people after my talk last year. That was great. And that just continues to build that community year round because Author Nation isn't just a singular event. There's the Discord server, there's the community page, there's events all year long, there's things happening. So it's not just a one-off. Like I don't want to turn this into an Author Nation advertisement, though obviously am motivated to get people to go, and it's soon, so it's on my brain because it's going to be in a couple weeks. So, um, but yes, I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Hopefully, I see some of the people who are watching this there. If you want to come find me, I'll be at the EFA booth all week, on and off, and I'll be talking and I'll be mingling with people. I'm also the Northeast Regional, so I'm, like I said, fully invested in this.
Yeah, and I'm the show manager, but if you see me running by, grab my arm and say hello.
Yes,
I will say hello back, and then I will keep going in whatever direction I was running to solve a problem for.
whatever fire you're going to put out.
Yes,
All right, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I will see you in a few weeks.
sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.